next guest. He is truly an inspiration. He is the executive director of the Who's Who in Black Canada. He owns his own advertising agency called the Ricardo McRae Agency. He is an expert when it comes to Twitter and Facebook and all social media. So, Ricardo, where were you at? So, Ricardo, if you're a twit like me and I have no friends, can you help me? No? Okay. Thank you. He's recently published in the Huffington Post, and he's actually been tweeted by Oprah Winfrey herself. Ladies and gentlemen, warm round of applause for Ricardo McRae.
Has a very unique story, and I've watched literally him come from some real interesting challenges to some major successes today. So Ricardo, please share with us a little bit about this, a little bit of your story.
Sure thing. Is this on?
Yeah.
Just one point of correction. I wasn't actually tweeted by Oprah. It was by Oprah tweets or something, but it was...
That's okay, it's still Oprah. Stop playing.
Oprah quote. That's not like correct. It wasn't actually Oprah that did that. I'll tell you a bit about my story. How far back do you want me to go? What do you want me to share?
Wherever you're going.
Got it. Came to Canada from Trinidad. Moved to Oshawa from Trinidad to go to high school, came up here to live with my dad, and about 6 months later, because of the circumstances at home, I left. And ever since that point, I was on my own. This was in grade 12. So, finished off high school, putting myself through school, working, going to high school, then going on to the Ontario College of Arts, University of Windsor, and I'm using a lot of huge jumps here, but yeah, basically currently own my own design firm and run the Who's Who in Black Canada.
Well, give us a little bit, now, we've had some of the stories that were earlier that were people have had from a very young age, had to sort of strike out on their own, and I know you have something similar that happened with you. So if you, when you decided to make a move.
Okay, so I left home 17, 18, around that time, and it always strikes me, I see someone who's 17, 18 now, and I'm like, you are like a child. I'm like, whoa. But I left, it was the middle of a snowstorm, didn't want to be at home anymore, it was abusive, and I just said, that's it, I'm leaving today. I'm walking out. I put everything I owned into 2 garbage bags, matching luggage of green hefty, and I walked outside. It was the middle of a snowstorm. It was the first time I'd seen snow, and that was it. And I was like, I'm not going back. And I walked out and I went, I'm gonna go this way. And I walked over through the yard, through some places, ended up at a friend's house, knocked on the door and I said, look, I don't know where I'm gonna sleep, but could I leave some stuff in your garage until I figure it out? And they invited me in and ended up staying with him and his family for the rest of the first semester, and then moved out after that to finish up high school.
Well, so where did you, I mean, I know that art is your love. How did you get into the area of art, and how did you figure you could make some money at that?
Okay, so my passion is art and creativity. It's the one thing I know I can do extremely well. So throughout high school, I would always be, drawing or painting. I'd be in art class, and I would be getting great marks with very little effort. Moved through Ontario College of Art, then the University of Windsor, and left. Didn't want to be a starving artist, so I went into business and into IT. Became very successful at that in the corporate world, working for the largest internet provider in the world as a project manager and account executive. Dealing with basically the Fortune 500, the smallest client we would take on would have to have an office in 3 different countries before we would even talk to them on the phone. And I was one of 3 black people in the whole company doing that in Canada. And was very successful for a while. At the point, always knowing I was an artist and never really wanting to admit that. Having some great conversations with a friend of mine, my best friend actually, who died. He had cancer, And in the conversations I had with him prior to his death, I said, you know, you're 30 years old. What's your biggest regret knowing you're going to die? And to this day, I will never forget that. He said, knowing that my son will never hear me play music. And it's the one thing I love to do more than anything else. To this day, I get goosebumps when I say that. It's the most riveting, grounding thing I've ever heard in my life, is to talk to someone who's about to die. It's my best friend, and he said, all that matters is following your passion. He's like, it doesn't matter about the bills, it doesn't matter about the pain, it doesn't matter about the suffering. He's like, my son will never hear me do something that I was meant to do. And within a month, I resigned from my job, got an art studio down on Queen Street, and started painting.
Wow. Okay. Now, I remember we had a unique experience at university when you met my father.
I'm still shaking from that. Well, as a dad.
And when he asked you what you did what you were studying, you said.
I told him I was studying art, and he said, really? How do you plan to make a living with that?
Right. And ring a bell with anybody? Has anybody ever had somebody ask them, you had a good idea, but how are you going to make some? How are you going to pay your bills? You got responsibilities. Well, tell us how you made money doing what you love.
Left, and for the first year after leaving corporate, lost a lot of weight, ate a lot of oranges. I was starving. Hello, that was... I sold my art. Every time I had a show, I did something. My work sold, but it wasn't selling at the speed at which I needed it to sell to live the life I wanted to live, because I like nice things, I like spending money, and it's nothing against art. It was just, I really had to ask myself, do you want to make art, or do you want to be creative? And that was a deeper need in me, was below art, painting, drawing. It was to be creative. So when I look back at my year and just said what made money and what didn't, because I track everything that I do, websites made money. I said, let's do more of that. And that led, within a couple of years, to building websites full-time. Like, the calls just kept coming in. Every time I did one, it led to 2, it led to 3, and it just kept going and going and going.
By the way, y'all like the My Dreams Work website? How many of y'all saw that? You like that? That's Ricardo. Give him a warm round of applause. He's doing good work. So you started out from in the galleries, and the reason that I want to come back to this, because a lot of people don't understand the beginning. The beginning is always the toughest part. It's always the toughest part. It's the part where you see the least amount of light, usually. Yeah, right? So if you would be so kind as to, you were deciding between what would make you work, because I remember you did actually get out there and sell some of your actual fine arts. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that.
About selling my actual paintings? Okay. I would have a show. I would call Starbucks. I would say, I have some amazing art. I want to come in. Who do I talk to about showing it in your establishment? You went down, you met them, showed them the work. They went, great. Here's the date, 6 months from now. And I went, no, you don't understand. I need to eat. I only got so many oranges. No, I'll keep it real. I've been hungry at times and really had to ask myself that question, is it worth it? How hungry do you have to get before you go get a job? How do you sell these paintings? At what price do you sell them? I mean, it was literally between buying groceries and someone saying, I'll give you $50 for that piece. And I'm like, no, I won't do it. I said I will borrow money from someone and buy groceries before I let the art go at a price that I don't think it's worth it. So those were decisions I had to make all the time. Continue to have to make decisions like that. You just have to decide what your stuff is worth. No one is going to come along and say, oh, it's worth $1 million, unless you say it's worth $1 million. And it's everything about your life and everything about your dreams. You decide what they're worth. Never, ever let someone tell you what something is worth. Ever.